Extremist movie debate. Extremist movie debate. Extremist movie debate.
It's the Extremist movie debate. And tonight, we're talking 50 Shades Darker.
I am Joe.
I'm Ethan, and one of us is going to love it, one of us is going to hate it.
Let the coin decide their fate.
I hate it.
I love it.
Do you want a beer?
No.
All right. Well, since Ethan, you hated, this first question is for you. We're going to go with Andrea Groval from the Chicago Reader. She says, other than Dornan's exceptional physique, the movie offers little gratification, delayed or not. So it seems that this woman loves this movie on a superficial level. Do you want to talk about the superficiality of the characters and or the entire movie? You have 1 minute.
So the reviewer loved it based on the superficiality of Dornan?
Yeah.
Oh, good for her. That's great. Yeah, he is a body and she's a body, and they're in the same room together. They occupy the same space, so therefore they must be in love. She has no depth beyond she's read a couple books in Brit Lit, and he has no depth beyond he is rich and likes to slap people that look like his mother. And that's okay. That works for them, except that I don't understand why the characters are ever in love and why they're hopelessly devoted to each other. It never makes sense. It doesn't make sense in the first movie why she would break up with him because he spanks her because she looks like his mom. That doesn't seem like something to get that upset about, and it doesn't make sense why they would break up. It definitely doesn't make sense why they would get back together, and it doesn't make sense why they would fall in love to the point where they would actually get married. Again, they occupy the same space. That's about it.
Okay, thank you. Joe, you have 30 seconds to respond.
That's not true, because she has interests, and you see in this movie, 50 Shades Darker, how she gets promoted to fiction editor because it's based on her knowing the publishing business. It's based on her taking initiatives and suggesting things that are kind of outside the box, taking a risk on a new name. And essentially, Gray then buys the publishing house because he's interested in what she's interested in. So he is putting forth the effort to be interested in the things that interest her.
Okay, thank you. Ethan, you have 15 seconds for a spot.
The publishing house, because she wants somebody who can... He's never been happy before being controlled, being unable to dominate somebody before. And now, he buys this, but he still controls her, and she's still okay with the fact that, she is the one who is...
All right, I'm sorry, Ethan. I'm going to have to cut you off there. Joe, you have a final 15 to respond.
This whole movie is an illustration in her not being controlled and how he is so confused by that. But he still loves her and still wants her. So that's the biggest conflict of the movie, is he's always used to being in charge and having a submissive, and now he doesn't, and he loves it, and he doesn't understand that. That's the
Okay,
big
thank
conflict.
you, Joe. We're going to move on to the next question. And Joe, this one is for you. This comes from Amy Nicholson of MTV News. She says, the movies aren't so bad they're good. They're so brilliantly bad they're genius, with James Foley dutifully presenting every inane plot point while gifting us excuses to laugh. So, can you touch on what separates this movie from, she's saying it's a fun bad movie. Can you talk about what separates that from, a bad movie, and what makes this, a good?
Yeah, I think I see what you're saying. What makes this a good bad movie?
Yeah, a movie you can laugh at.
Yeah, which I don't think it's a good bad movie. I think it's a good movie. It's a very sincerely good movie. And you can see this with James Foley's other movies. Glengarry Glen Ross, he made Fear. Those are really great movies. Glengarry Glen Ross, or whatever the fuck it's called, won an Academy Award. Or it was nominated for a bunch. Glengarry Glen Ross.
Good job.
Gary Glen Ross?
You did it.
It's about the real estate and shit. But no, 50 Shades Darker is just a much better movie because it's opening up the entire can of worms of what it is to be in a relationship that you have to really work for. These two people don't see eye to eye because Christian Grey is emotionally stunted and Anastasia Steele is on such an EQ level that she just really feels empathetic to everybody around her. So she's taking on a project and he's taking on his own project, which is himself, because he loves her so much that he knows he has to change if he wants to keep her. Because if he doesn't change himself at a base primitive level, he's going to lose her.
Thank you, Joe. Ethan, you have 30 seconds to respond.
And again, I don't understand why he loves her if he always likes a submissive before and she's the only person who's ever giving him flack and actually sort of contradicting him. But that beyond that, it is a bad movie. It's not a fun bad movie. And it's a bad movie because you look at something like The Room, where you have gratuitous sex scenes, but they're funny because it's probably the same sex scene just played twice. This movie, no. They're just fucking each other. It's just porn. It's softcore. It's not that satisfying, and it's pretty uncomfortable because it's sandwiched in between just dog shit otherwise on all the ends.
Okay, thank you, Ethan. Joe, you have 15 seconds to respond.
No, I think this is what's so interesting about this movie is you don't understand why Christian Grey is so in love with her,
No.
and Christian Grey doesn't understand why he's so in love with her, and that's the whole conflict. He's trying to figure out what is it about Anastasia Steele that he's so attracted to.
Thank you, Joe. Ethan, you have a final 15
Well, what
to
does
respond.
Anastasia Steele like about him? Besides that he took her virginity, that he gives her a house, that he gives her a job. He literally bought her company, fired her boss, and promoted her, and everybody's okay with that.
Her boss had to be fired. He was a rapist.
Did he? Was he?
All right.
Honestly, I don't know. I was asleep.
Okay, we're going to open up just an open debate. You guys have 4 minutes to talk back and forth. And go.
Just
Was he a
because-
rapist? What happened?
so what-
Tell me.
So what happened is Christian Grey's down on the street waiting for her, and it's just her and her boss, and he's like, hey, can you come in here? And he has a fairly, somewhat valid conversation with her, just basically saying like, hey, I'm pretty good at my job. I can teach you a lot, but it doesn't seem like you're really putting forth all of the effort that you could, because she's re-infatuated with Christian Grey, basically.
okay, all right.
So he makes a pretty valid point. And then, like, you get this from the very beginning. You get a very ominous feel from this character from the start. He closes the door, and she was like, I could make you come, I could fuck you, I could do it. And she was just like, get away! And she kicks him in the crotch, and then runs out. So he gets fired because he sexually harasses and physically assaults
Okay,
Anastasia
that's fair,
Steele.
but then why did she get promoted?
Because
she was his assistant.
Because there's nobody else to fill in, and she knows the.
How about the other
she
assistants
knows,
that have been there longer than her?
Because she knows his entire roster. She was the fiction assistant.
There's nobody
the
else
fiction
at any
editor-
other publishing house who's maybe looking for a different job in Seattle.
Different publishing. She was filling in for the day. She was filling in for the one day, and she knocked it out of the park. They decided to just promote her.
Oh, that happens a lot. Okay, I get it now.
Are you saying it doesn't happen? Just because you're not like you're in the service industry, so just because you're not in the publishing industry like me doesn't mean you really know what it's like.
What did she accomplish on that first day that was so great that
Because some guys
warranted her being
some
promoted?
guys like we need to restrict our titles. We need to go with what's tried and true. And she was like, well, maybe I just read this book and it's really brilliant. And here's the demographic. Here's how Twitter works. Here's how social media works. And all these old guys are like, whoa, like you know how like things work. Like you're promoted. She gets it. She's the millennial key. She's the millennial plug-in for all of us to be like, oh, we want to read books.
Can you describe to me what characteristics make up Christian? Sorry, Edward.
Christian.
Edward. Describe to me how he is a character beyond money and BDSM.
Well, even in this movie, he says it's not BDSM. He says he's a sadist. So he's already
Which
coming
is
to
the S.
Well, he's coming to he's coming to terms with like the extent of his like emotional stunting from when he was a young man.
Okay.
So you see him like overcoming the emotional barriers that were set up that he has to hurl over to actually become a man worth Anastasia Steele's time. So essentially, you're watching his evolution as a man who was lost and broken to a full man, and you can see that when he traces. When he traces the no-touch zone on his chest with lipstick, and then you see her take it off, and then
they have sex,
and then he puts her hand on his chest, and that's a huge breakthrough. I started cheering and clapping in the theater. I loved it. Because you see that character growth and that character change throughout the 2 hours of this movie. And you don't see that in a lot of movies anymore. A lot of movies are just cyclical, and they're just the same two scenes over and over and over again.
I would argue that this movie is the same two scenes over and over again.
disagree.
I would argue that it's pretty much just, oh, I don't know if I love you or not. Oh, I think I love you. Okay, let's have sex.
Yeah, but her change, because she's a very solid, like stagnant character, whereas Christian Grey is where all the change is coming from, and you see him change drastically throughout the movie. He shaves at one point, and he draws the box on his chest, and you see him opening up and actually telling her things about his past. He tells her about his mother, and he tells her about when his mother died, and he had to sit in the same room with her for 4 days, and trying to wake her dead body up. That's heartbreaking. That is heartbreaking that he was 4 years old, alone with his mother, trying to wake her up, and now he feels so safe and confident with Anastasia Steele that he can tell her that now. You see this drastic change in his character.
Real quick, Jeff, how much of his character do you think was actually based on his love for Chronicles of Riddick. Okay, go ahead, Jeff.
Enormous.
Okay, guys, I'm gonna have to cut you off there. Why don't you talk about how you really feel about this movie?
He loves Chronicles of Riddick. There's
He
a
does.
framed fucking poster in his childhood bedroom. You don't see it until the second time they go into the bedroom, 2 minutes before the credits play, and the camera just turns a little bit, and all of a sudden, boom. Framed Chronicles of Riddick poster. Production design. What the fuck were you thinking? How does this add anything to his character? How does that make sense within the scope of this movie whatsoever? Pick any other movie. Pick Glengarry Glen Ross. Fucking Fear would have been perfect. Come on, James Foley. Chronicles of Riddick.
No, best part of the movie, hands down.
It was the funniest part of the movie.
Seeing that poster made my day. Made the $5.75 I spent going to the movie worth it.
So glad you got a discount. Good.
Yeah, I went in the morning. No, it's horrible. This movie is terrible. And like Ethan was saying, it's the same 2 scenes, just over and over and over again for like 2 hours. So it starts out with her being like, with him being controlling, and her being like, I'm not into that anymore. I don't want to be controlled. I am my own woman. And then she leaves, and then the next scene comes back and just goes, we need to talk, please. And then they just start fucking. Like, they don't even talk. They just start fucking. And it's those 2 scenes for 2 hours. But you get Riddick at the end.
Yeah, and they're...
But you get Riddick.
And neither one of them are likable.
No.
Like you were talking, like she's a shell of a character. Like maybe there's like internal, like maybe the books have internal thoughts, but on screen she just is very meek and quiet and doesn't like assert herself really. And she's supposed to be this like powerful woman who will stand up to Christian Grey, but you don't really see it.
No.
And then Christian Grey is just like such a piece of shit. Like he's never changing. He's never going to change. And you see that illustrated in the same 2 scenes every part of this movie.
And there are moments where it's like, I feel like the book probably does a whole lot more than the movie does, but that's bad on the movie. Things like, there's a helicopter crash. Yes. He crashes in his helicopter on his way to Portland, Oregon, and then everybody's watching the news. All the family's together in his apartment, which is weird, and they're all watching the news saying, where is he, instead of making phone calls. And then all of a sudden he walks through the door. So somehow he survived a helicopter crash with his assistant, whoever she was, and they make their way out of the woods, out of the river where they landed, through the city, back into a taxi, maybe another airplane, back to Seattle. Maybe it was a private helicopter. I don't know. They make it back without anybody noticing, and he doesn't bother to contact anybody, and then it's never addressed again. And this is where I think the book is maybe better, is, you see nerd bookworm McRaperson actually smoking a cigarette and burning off his face at the very end of the movie. You're like, did he crash the plane? The movie doesn't make us think that. I have to think that because I want something to make sense with that fucking helicopter crash. The book probably does do that. The movie does not.
Also, you do get a little bit where the TV says, "Oh, Christian Grey has been found and he's safe and sound." Like the the news anchor says safe and sound, and then about 10 seconds later, he walks into the apartment, like, no hospital. Like nothing else. Like don't talk to anybody else. Just go straight home with all your bloody like shit.
Move! I gotta see my girl. No, that's what he says.
No, he walks in and goes, "What are y'all doing here?" Like he yells at his family for being worried.
You're stupid for caring about me.
All right, so what would you guys rate this movie?
0. No, I'll give it a 1.
I'll give it a 2. I never give a 0. And nothing will ever be as bad as Captain Phillips. So I will give it a 2. 0 thunder.
I'll give it a 1. I mean, they put moving pictures up on a screen. They accomplished that in a barely cohesive narrative.
Oh, speaking of one of Jeff's questions, or maybe it was you. No, you brought it up.
No thunder.
You brought it up. Like, towards the end, I was just like, this is just The Room with a bigger budget. Like, in the theater, I thought that.
Yes.
Oh, boy.
Okay, where can we guys find you online?
You can look at our brand new banner and just follow those. That's Twitter. That's Facebook.
You can also write us a comment down below, like and subscribe to our channel, and if you want us to do a movie in the future and have a question for us to answer in that movie, go ahead and write it in your comment, and Unpaid Intern Jeff will go ahead and put that into the video.
Yeah. Thank you, Mitch Davis Media, for the new intro. If you want any animation done, MitchDavisMedia.com, maybe?
I don't know if we're supposed to plug him. Thanks, Mitch.
He's not paid either. Thank you and good night.
Thanks.